We have all been waiting for this as the Pittsburgh Steelers are set to bring in a superstar free agent that could help their offense. My name is Peyton Kleppe, and on today's episode of Steelers Digest, we'll be breaking down the latest Pittsburgh Steelers reports and analysis regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. As the Steelers did indeed trade away George Pickens earlier this offseason, they are set to bring in his replacement tomorrow. Before we get into the latest reports regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you guys are not already currently subscribed to the channel, only 13% of our current viewers are actually currently subscribed. So if you click that subscribe button, we will get you the latest Pittsburgh Steelers reports and analysis. Let's get right into it. The Steelers are set to sign a brand new wide receiver. And this guy's name is Gabe Davis. We all know Gabe Davis from his years in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Dude was a stud, but obviously he did have a little bit of a down year in Jacksonville after signing a big contract last offseason. Some sources are saying that, former Bills and Jaguars wide receiver Gabe Davis is scheduled to travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday and visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday. So, this was reported by Adam Schefter a few days ago. And, he is set to visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers tomorrow, probably run a few routes for him, check out the facility, see what's going on, maybe meet Mason Rudolph, maybe a little Will Howard action, maybe some Caleb Johnson, Jaylen Warren, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm happy the Steelers are actually finally bringing in a wide receiver that is under 30 years old, though, because, Gabe Davis is a guy that still, I think, has a lot of untapped potential. He's still a young guy, still in the middle of his 20s, and obviously did have a lot of playoff success and regular season success with the Buffalo Bills a few years ago. But obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to add some playmakers and some pass catchers, and Davis is, he's a good guy to have a bounce-back season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If we could sign this guy to, a few $1 million deal, maybe a 2-3 year deal, if we're lucky, it might even be a 1-year deal. But, I think Gabe Davis could have a bounce-back year for us, slide him into that number 2 receiver spot alongside DK Metcalf. You got two big-bodied receivers on the outside. You throw Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin in the slot, and we obviously have Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington, and obviously we're also looking to add Jonnu Smith via trade. These reports have been coming out the last week that we're going to add Jonnu Smith, and Adam Schefter has also reported this. So obviously bringing in Gabe Davis, it would add a big playmaker for the Steelers and for a good price. We probably don't have to pay this guy a ton of money. He's obviously still getting paid from the Jaguars, who cut him this offseason. Cohen did not want to pay the dude, so we do have the option to sign him in free agency, because obviously this dude got a little overpaid last year to go to Jacksonville. They brought him in after letting Calvin Ridley walk, but Jacksonville was a little bit of a mess last year. They had Mac Jones in there at quarterback here and there. Trevor Lawrence obviously did not have a great year after getting paid a ton of money. Etienne Jr. really didn't play that well, and they were not looking too great. But, if we flash forward back in time, Gabe Davis once upon a time was a deep threat and dog receiver for the Buffalo Bills. If we look at this picture here, it's our own boy Minkah Fitzpatrick getting mossed by Gabe Davis. I do remember this game. It was Kenny Pickett's first start in, I believe, 2023. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I do remember this game. Gabe Davis, first couple of plays of the game, gets a 67-yard touchdown on Minkah's head. So, we have seen what this guy can do to teams in the past. Unfortunately, it was against us when Kenny Pickett did have his own start. But, Davis was originally drafted in the fourth round, of the 2020 draft by the Buffalo Bills. In his first 4 seasons with Buffalo, he totaled 2,730 yards and 27 touchdowns. So, in 4 years, that's pretty good, and you also add his playoff statistics. This guy has, I believe, 400 to 600 receiving yards in the playoffs, and he also has got 4 to 6 touchdowns as well. If you guys do remember a few years ago in the divisional round, this guy had over 200 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Buffalo Bills have still not been able to get past him, even if we look back to last year. But this did earn Gabe Davis his big contract that he did sign with the Jaguars last year. It was a 3-year deal worth $39 million, and obviously he did not play too great for them, but I think he would do just fine coming into Pittsburgh. But like I said earlier, the Pittsburgh Steelers are also interested in bringing in Jonnu Smith. Adam Schefter did report yesterday that the Steelers have renewed conversations with the Miami Dolphins about acquiring Jonnu Smith, who is seeking a brand new contract, and this trade is still alive. So, there's been a lot of different trades this offseason by the Pittsburgh Steelers, a lot of different trade rumors, but, when we hear that they're back in trade discussions, it's definitely good to hear because we've heard a lot of different names this offseason, a lot of different receivers, a lot of different quarterbacks. But I actually think this is a possibility that the Pittsburgh Steelers could make done. Even if we don't get Gabe Davis, Jonnu Smith would be another great fallback option to fill that wide receiver number 2 void. Obviously, Jonnu Smith really isn't a wide receiver, but he's built pretty athletic and he's a pass-catching tight end. So I think if Gabe Davis really does not look too great in his workout with the Steelers, or he's just not the same guy he once used to be, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will aggressively try to go back to Jonnu Smith and bring another security blanket for Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and possibly Aaron Rodgers, depending on whenever he wants to show up to training camp. I guess, he's still dealing with his personal issues, which is a whole nother thing. But if you add him to the equation, it totally changed the game, But, Gabe Davis, I really would be excited if he did have a comeback season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know we are a team that in the past has been able to kind of bring some veterans or middle-aged players in and maybe bring them back to their former glory. And Gabe Davis is still a young guy. So I think if we put him in the right position, have the right guy throwing him the football, hopefully we will figure that out before the regular season. But I think a combination of that, if Arthur Smith likes him and he wants to involve him with the offense, obviously depends also how DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin play. Those are some other big names in the wide receiver room that are poised to have some big seasons. So if they're getting double covered or they're, burning their matchups, it might take away or give Gabe Davis, some more production. But I'm excited to see what happens, Although we did not get a huge big-name wide receiver in a trade, Gabe Davis is a guy that he's only a few years removed from a lot of playoff success. He's still a talented guy, still got a lot of untapped potential. So I'm excited for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm excited that this guy's kind of fallen into our lap. There was some other guys that we were rumored to sign, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, and some of those other veteran guys who obviously did bring in Robert Woods earlier this offseason, Ben Skoranek, and Scotty Miller as well. So there will be some competition in the wide receiver room. Although we do not have the biggest names at the moment, I think we have all guys that want to be here and want to compete. So, it's good to have some hungry dogs finally and not have any more divas in the wide receiver room. Unfortunately, that's all I have for you guys tonight on Steelers Digest. If you guys are not already currently subscribed, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much. Here we go, Steelers.